I'm trying to remember. No, I did not go. I have not been to LA. I did go to San Diego when I was a kid, though.
Never been to San Diego either. I
I
have been
don't
to
remember a whole lot.
Sacramento.
No, San Diego was all right. We weren't there for very long. We spent most of our time in Northern California, and then like just went down to San Diego just to see what it was like, and then we were like, let's go back up to San Francisco. This was also the early 2000s before San Francisco got like completely taken over by the tech companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was nice from what I remember. We just went down to San Diego just to see what it was like, and then we were like, let's go back up to San Francisco. This was also the early 2000s before San Francisco got like completely taken over by the tech companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was nice from what I remember. And we went up to John Muir National.
Oh, Lord. My mic was muted. Well, so pretty much
We went up to
everything that I just said about why I'm doing this on a Friday and not a Saturday was lost to the masses. So I'm just going to say it again. One of my sisters is flying in this morning, and I'm picking her up from the airport, but she is flying in because another one of our sisters is having her bachelorette party this weekend. So I'm super excited, but also means I'm not going to be with you on Saturday morning. I'll probably be asleep at our usual
nice
time.
from what I remember. And we went up to
Okay. Now, see, I wasn't sure if this had silenced or not. So now I know. Not.
what I
How's it
remember.
sound?
And we went up to John Muir National Forest, which is where all
Here we
the
go.
redwoods and sequoias are. And that was, absolutely gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was so beautiful.
Ah, dang it. But here I am thinking I'm just silencing this one little clip, and I silenced. Yeah, like a whole bunch. Okay. So sometimes if I'm just being a Butterfingers, I'm just going to delete it and not mess with silencing the clips.
Remember? And we went up to
So when
John
you
Muir
merge
National
the
Forest,
clips,
which is where all the redwoods
just a
and
silent
sequoias
thing
are.
will
And
Oh
that
yeah.
was
show up there.
absolutely gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was so beautiful.
Wasn't John Muir a friend of Roosevelt?
All right, let's try this. Okay, I like
And
that
that
face.
was absolutely gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was so beautiful.
Wasn't John Muir a friend of Roosevelt?
I think so. Like,
Okay, let me do two things here. Just going to shorten that up a little bit. And
Oh, beautiful.
Wasn't John Muir a friend of Roosevelt?
Oh, beautiful.
Wasn't John Muir a friend of Roosevelt?
I think so.
There we
Like,
go.
he was a weird guy where, like, he lived in the woods and was kind of a hermit, but he also knew a bunch of famous people. I don't know how you managed both, but he did.
Sounds. I did know literally nothing about him, but he sounds a little bit more to me like a, like a Hemingway type figure, which seems to happen a lot for white dudes.
But he also knew a bunch of famous people. I don't know how you managed both, but he did. If I'm recalling correctly, I'm not hip to my John Muir lore.
Well, if any of you are hip to your John Muir lore, and my hypothesis about him being, like a Hemingway character who lives in the woods, aka his mom's backyard. Let me
I don't know how you managed both, but he did. If I'm recalling correctly, I'm not hip to my John Muir lore.
Well, the internet knows. Well, that comes up. Yeah, the main thing I remember about Sacramento, aside from my family being there, is that it feels like St. Paul, Minnesota.
Elaborate.
All right, let's see.
Elaborate.
There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, so the other thing I was saying is that this video is going to be a little bit shorter than average because of when my sister's flight lands. So you're just getting FaceTime with for probably, about 40-ish more minutes here. Maybe you should, actually, what time is it, golly? 5:11 for me. We might just be looking at about 20 more minutes.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Elaborate.
Well, the vibes it gives off feels like Summit Avenue over by the University of St. Thomas. The houses are of that kind of size and shape and age.
Nice little Victorian.
Actually going to be in that neighborhood this weekend that Justin was just describing. It's definitely for rich people, but their Airbnbs are very affordable, and that's nice.
Size and shape and age.
Nice little Victorian turn of the 20th century. Or is that turn of the 19th century? I can't remember.
Turn of the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah. And the parts I was in at least was,
Let's see.
Yeah. And the parts I was in at least.
Here. We're just gonna do that. Here we go.
Yeah. And the parts I was in at least was, kind of well-to-do, but not too much so. At least at the time. Mm-hmm. This was also 20 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the time of year I was there, Um,
Okay. A little bit what I thought.
plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the time of year I was there was similar to late spring in Minnesota. I guess it's early spring in Minnesota now. What with the way
That's
global
not what I
warming
meant to
is.
do.
So comfortable and walkable.
Yeah, well, I imagine. Well, actually, I don't know. Like, on the one hand, they still. I imagine.
Here we go. And go.
So comfortable and walkable.
I imagine. Well, actually, I don't know. Like, on the one hand, they still got the Pacific Ocean keeping things nice and temperature regulated, but on the other hand, the state's on fire for 10 months out of the year. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll be real honest. I love my friends in California. You could not ever convince me at this point in our planet's global warming cycle to live in the western part of North America. Like droughts, fires. No, thank you.
10 months out of the year. So I don't know what's going on over there
Yeah.
now.
I think they're up to 11 months of the year now.
Oh, great. Love it.
Oh, yeah. So even more can't convince me. The whole state is on fire all the time. I mean, good heavens. Ugh. All right. So I'm just going ahead and silencing some of those mic hits that
I
Net
think they're up to
has.
11 months of the year now.
Oh, great. Love it.
Here we go. In 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt accompanied Muir on a visit to
Yosemite.
Why can't I say Yosemite?
Yosemite?
It's a tough one. There's no doubt about it. I grew up hearing about Yosemite because before I've spent most of my life in Minnesota, but I was born in Utah and spent the early part of my life there. So, yeah, friends and family in Utah, they like the
On a visit
mountains.
to Yosemite. Why can't I say Yosemite?
Yosemite?
Yosemite.
Yosemite?
Yeah.
Wow, I can't say that anymore. Muir joined Roosevelt in Oakland, California. So yeah, Muir joined Roosevelt in Oakland, California. So yeah, somehow they were friends. Weird. So yeah, somehow they were friends. Weird, huh?
I mean,
Why did Rachel? Why did I silence this instead of just deleting this clip? That wasn't talking on the other track. Ugh. Clearly, I'm just on the struggle bus a little bit this morning. Well, that's how it goes sometimes.
So yeah, somehow they were friends. Weird, huh?
I mean, he was. God. I'm frantically digging through my brain for everything I remember about Muir. I went to a hippie college, so like we learned a little bit about all those naturalist dudes from the last century.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, he.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think I can get around that really easily, so it's just all going to be silenced.
Naturalist dudes from the last century. And if I recall correctly, he had one of those he had this like wild ass writing desk that I remember seeing pictures of, but it had like all these weird customizations and stuff. Like you know those sweet gaming rigs that you see people set up where like it's like a BattleTech simulator, and it's got everything like 5 screens and a joystick and a swivel chair and all that stuff. It was like that, but for a writing desk.
That would be freaking sweet.
Yeah,
I would love one.
yeah, me too. I'd also love the space to be able to have something like that.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love my. Like, don't get me wrong.
Let's see, that lip smack is what's getting me here.
Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
There we go. This is just goodbye. So here's a little story for you. When my oldest daughter was first starting to, eat solid foods, sometimes she would like pick up like her individual peas, and then she'd like drop them to the ground and go, "Goodbye, I love you." Oh man, I'm grateful she doesn't throw peas on the floor anymore. But man,
Yeah,
it was so
something like
stinking
that.
cute.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love my house. It is a great house. I'm very happy I live in it, but I do sometimes wish I had a little bit more room, just a little bit, like one extra room.
Maybe you can get
One thing that is always kind of to me to reflect on is how much difference like a good layout in your house can make. Compared to just like straight up more space. I don't know. What do you guys think?
A little bit more room, just a little bit, like one extra room.
maybe you can get a sub basement add-on.
Well, what we want to do is we want to dorm.
Sub basement. What a delightful Prohibition era throwback. So the part of Minnesota that I grew up in has a really, really strong alcohol culture. So Prohibition was slightly more difficult for them than in other parts of the country. And I say that knowing full well that it was, basically impossible for the entire country. But pretty much everybody has a sub basement, including my parents. Theirs is not accessible right now, but they've got one.
A sub basement add-on.
Well, what we want to do is we want to dormer out the top level where most of my space is, because right now.
Okay, now that I think we're gonna. I feel like maybe I talked about this a few weeks back, but there was an article that had come out talking about like the psychological benefits of using filler words. Kind of my big takeaway from it was that it allows your brain like that buffer time to process the concept that's being presented to you. So I've been trying to be a little bit more generous with actually just like leaving them in, but once in a while, no, I think you can just ditch it.
Top level where most of my space is, because right now there are parts that are unfinished and that are just like attic space. So if we bumped up those and made them so that they were not slanty ceilinged anymore, but were like, the full 8 feet that a normal room is, that would like add.
Let's see what she's saying.
That would like add a whole other room.
I already said that.
That's like a long in the future project because that would require basically me moving out of my space for who knows how long while that was finished.
Okay, so I'm gonna, it sounds to me like Justin might have like a fan going or something like that. So
That would require basically
kind of that
me
whole
moving out of
low
my
level.
space for who knows how long while that was finished.
Biscuits. All right. Let's try this again.
Who knows how long
Boom.
while that was finished.
Yeah, that does sound like a long-term thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like our neighbors, like very shortly after.
So making like that noise with my mouth always reminds me of Lower Decks. And our Star Trek Lower Decks crew simulating the warp core. So I'm just gonna ask if you want to like share in the comments, or I'm starting to have a hunch about who my one person that joins me every week, no matter when I do this, is. So in the chat, are you so excited for Lower Deck season 3 to premiere next
Who
week?
knows how long while that was finished.
I definitely
Yeah, that does sound like a long-term thing.
Oh, did I accidentally silence Nat? Dang. Okay, here we go.
Who knows how long while that was finished.
Yeah, that does sound like a long-term thing.
Yeah, like our neighbors, like very shortly after we moved into our current house, our next door neighbors did like a complete remodel of their interior, which required that they move out. And we moved in God, like August or September, and they initially thought that their stuff, and they were moving out shortly afterwards, and they're like, yeah, this should be done by Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving wasn't done. Whole winter went through. It wasn't done until like this past like spring, like May, I think.
Dang.
So instead of November, it was done in May.
I imagine that might address this, but I wonder if it's just because it's supply chain issues.
So
Dang.
instead of
Curious.
November, instead it was done in May.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Boop.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
Granted, I also don't want to own a house. I would prefer to live in a condo, personally.
That's fair.
I don't want to deal with yards. Or maintenance.
Yeah, there's no doubt having a yard can be a mixed bag. Yeah, my struggle with because I'm a renter but do have a yard. My struggle is always with like really getting things cleaned up for mowing. Like, of course, the front yard is easy because it's pretty much just for looking at. But the kids play in the backyard. And they leave like their tiny little toys all over the place. And I'm a lazy mower. And so then I have to do a penance for also not being the type of adult that like cleans up daily. I have to carefully comb through the yard before I mow.
I don't want to deal with yards. Or maintenance.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
I kind of like having a yard. It's nice to be able to go out and putter around in the grass. I don't mind mowing
that.
though, so.
Yeah. Definitely that.
I say I don't mind mowing. I also haven't mown my yard in like
Yeah. I will say my backyard is also mostly flowers. Hold on 1 second.
I was going to do it this morning before we recorded, but it
Okay. Let's try this again. So, and my landlord is good enough to not spray for the weeds since he knows that the kids play in the yard. So that's good of him. Kind of indulges my hippie tendencies.
Definitely that.
I say I don't mind mowing. I also haven't mown my yard in like a month and a half. I was going to do it this morning before we recorded, but it rained overnight and the grass is still wet, so I was like, oh, I don't want to do it right now.
Yeah. Wait for it to dry a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
And the thing
much.
is that like, yes, it's long, but it's not like super long because we overseeded it with clover, so it's more clover than grass, and clover doesn't grow as
Yes.
high.
Oh, that's not bad then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. It's nice because it's got all the little flowers in it, and clover just is very pretty to look at, and it also doesn't require the fertilizer. It doesn't require as much mowing, so it's just
And it's
lower
great for
maintenance in general.
pollinators.
Yeah. Now you just
So-
need to get some crimson with that clover so they can have it over and over.
Excuse me.
Now you just need to get some crimson with that clover so they can have it over and over.
I'm assuming that's a song, but I'm not familiar with it.
It is, yeah.
I'm a,
Here we go. Just silence that clip. Boom.
I'm assuming that's a song, but I'm not familiar with it.
It is, yes. Crimson and clover.
It's nothing like a good rhyme, that's for sure.
Yes. Crimson and clover. It is a song from the 60s by Tommy James and the Shondells.
I see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I see.
So silence that.
Yeah.
And that. We go.
Yeah. I'll put a link in the show notes. But it's a song that's gets stuck in my head now and then throughout the years. It was released in 1960.
I just didn't want to make sure I wasn't cutting any dialogue there.
It's a song that's gets stuck in my head now and then throughout the years. It was released in 1968. How
That
old
was,
are your parents again?
My parents were both born in 1960. So, do the math.
Okay. Yes.
So
That's
Matt's parents are the
Your
same age
parents,
as my dad.
let's see, are 7 years younger than my dad. I am 39, 69, 62. Your parents are 62.
yes, that's right. I think my mom was
Your parents are 62.
yes, that's right. I think my mom was
Or will be. Depends on when
technically
their birthdays
born
are.
in 61 instead of 60, but they're less than a year apart.
All right. Oh, hey, my dad's turning 69 this year.
I'm really regretting not bringing a water bottle here with me, but that's just how it goes
60,
sometimes.
but they're less than a year apart.
All right. Oh, hey, my dad's turning 69 this year. Nice.
Nice.
But yeah, dad being born in 53 and mom being yeah, dad being born in 53 and mom being born in 57 makes it so that I heard a lot of 60s music growing up. Listen to
I think.
Cool 108.
Oh God, I remember Cool 108.
Cool 108.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think I know.
So, Cool 108 is like the quote unquote oldies station here in the Twin Cities. I gotta tell you, it's been real startling. When I usually listen to podcasts when I'm driving, but sometimes I turn on the radio, and it's been real startling to hear songs on the oldies station that I remember hearing for the first time on the radio when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that old.
I honestly, I think I know
music is
more
on the
like
oldies
60s music than my dad does at this point, and I place the blame squarely on Fallout. Like,
I think that's fair.
I was visiting my parents not too long ago, and my dad started playing some Elvis, and he's like, "You know who Elvis is, right?" I'm like, "Dad, yes, of course I know who Elvis is." And then later on, he's talking, and he's like, "Well, what kind of music would you like to listen to?" I'm like, "Oh, let's listen to the Ink Spots. I really like listening to them." He's like, "Who are the Ink Spots?" I'm like, "Oh my God, Dad. Only one of the most famous doo-wop groups ever."
Yep.
I'm wondering if fade might be necessary there. Let's take a listen.
Most famous doo-wop groups ever.
Yep. Now, I thought Fallout.
Yeah, I would go a little fade there, I think.
Groups ever.
Yep. Now, I thought Fallout.
Yeah, I like that a lot better.
I thought the Fallout happened before the 60s. Am I misunderstanding the lore of Fallout?
You are not. If I recall correct.
Okay, here, we're just gonna... do a couple of things here. Obviously, I don't want to remove all of that space, but maybe like millisecond,
Before the 60s. Am I misunderstanding the lore of Fallout?
You are not. If I recall correctly, the timeline split is somewhere before the invention of the microchip. So whenever the microchip was first invented, the Fallout universe differs from ours at some point before then. And that's the big technological difference, is that they...
Yeah, and I am going to ditch that, I think. Because there's also a bit of a space.
It differs from ours at some point before then. And that's the big technological difference, is that they didn't have microchips for the amount of time that we did. But they play fast and loose with the timeline, which, I mean, it's fair. They're video games. And so sometimes they will include music technically from after the timeline split, but, they're going for vibes. It's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. The microchip was invented September 12th, 1958.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. You gotta go with vibes, because...
Yeah, I think when you're seeking to entertain, 100%, you gotta go with the vibes. That's for sure.
There you go.
You gotta go with vibes, because...
Absolutely.
Otherwise, things won't make as much sense unless it
I'm going to just do a little silencing here.
does.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, things won't make as much sense unless it's to someone who is super, hardcore historian.
There's also the fact that, like,
The
the timeline splits from ours in the 50s, but it takes place hundreds of years in the future from us. So the idea
There
that
we
this,
go.
Country would have
That's something I like.
zero music that was newer than the 1950s is, like, just patently ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah, that
ridiculous
doesn't make
enough as it
sense.
is. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's still ridiculous if you think about too much that the only music available is stuff from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But again, going for vibes.
Oh yeah, it reminds me of the Star Trek original series episode. Oh, come on, brain, hold on. With the Guardian of Forever.
Oh, yeah.
See, now I have Tomorrow is Yesterday stuck in my head, and that is completely the wrong episode.
I have not watched enough Deep Space Nine to help you here. I'm sorry.
Original series.
Oh, original series. God, why did I hear Deep Space Nine? I haven't watched much of the original series either.
Yeah, such a great series. But on the other hand, you also have to remember the context of the era. Otherwise, it'll be not that good for your sanity. What with the way race and sex was viewed in the 60s compared to today. But
Yep.
The City on the Edge of Forever is the name of the episode I'm trying to think of. They go back in time to Kirk and Spock have to go back in time.
Here we go.
Kirk and Spock
Here we go. We're gonna.
back in time to
Okay. So I think I'm curious to hear how that flows. So let's just take a listen to see how it goes.
The City on the Edge of Forever is the name of the episode I'm trying to think of. Kirk and Spock have to go back in time to
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
stop Dr. McCoy from changing a pivotal.
Oh, this is okay. It's coming back to me. This is the Edith Keeler episode, right? Shoot.
Have to go back in
Hope so.
time
I hope I'm right.
to stop Dr. McCoy from changing a pivotal point in history on accident because he's high on drugs due to another accident. It's just
That took a
accidents
turn
keep
I was
happening.
not.
Due to another accident. It's just
That took a
accidents
turn
keep
I was
happening.
not expecting.
Yeah.
It's like, they gotta stop Dr. McCoy from changing history. I'm like, oh, he must have fallen in love with someone in the past.
Yeah, no. He is not the one that is fallen in love in that one. All right, so we're getting close to the end of our time here. So I'm gonna, while I'm merging clips and saving the file or whatever, I'm gonna take a minute here to be a little bit vulnerable with you all. So I think I've just kind of mentioned in passing a few times here that I'm working on this career pivot into audio storytelling after having worked in higher education for really quite a long time. And, I'm still working on it. We've got some projects in the works that I think are really exciting. But one thing that is proving to be really difficult for my family is just like the amount of labor. Because I work in front-facing student affairs. So, like, the weeks leading up to the start of a term are always super, super busy for me. And they're really difficult for me and for my family. And my daughter that I mentioned earlier with the peas, she invented an app a few days ago. You just have to click on the app, and it will give you 8 paid weeks away from work to spend with your kids. So that was a little bit of a gut punch for me. And we worked through it. Like, it was a good conversation, but I will also just share that, if you are looking for like a podcast editor or somebody to help you launch a podcast, like, I honest to goodness would really love to help you, because it would help me too. So it's somewhat selfish, but I just wanted to throw that out there, because just like the volume of labor during waking hours is, it's a little tough. And I'd appreciate your help to transition to something that's a little bit more sustainable for me and for my family. So until next week, I hope that you guys all have just a great week, just a dynamite week. And I will see you real soon.